Welcome to Tutorial 9 Advanced Shape Grammar. In the tutorial project you will find multiple advanced CGA code examples. The one explained in detail in the documentation here we see here now in the viewport. Since it may be tricky to understand the full code which is explained in the documentation here, I want to quickly explain the main concept in a much more simplified version of the CGA code. For this I have prepared this vertical shape here, and I already have assigned my concepts.cga rule file to it. So I'm going to open the rule and for the first time generate the facade. Now we see here that mainly just floors are generated on the facade. We see that in the first two lines of the code there's a floor height and there's a tile width defined. So the first rule is the facade, then we have a scope alignment vertically and the first split as just mentioned into approximately the floor height as many times as possible, and the resulting shape is floor color. Now here's the first two main things which you have to understand in order to understand how the documentation actually explains the creation of the advanced facade. So there's two things. There's on the one hand side there's the split.index keyword, and then there's this percentage sign here. So first the split.index, this is an index, or actually an integer value which gets passed on to each shape after it has been split. So this is an index which always starts with 0. So that shape down here has the index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on and so on. And this is always done after a split. So always in the next rule you have access to this value. By the way, there is also a split.total value which is passed on in case you need to do some calculations for ratio or similar things. Okay, let me undo this here. And then the second thing is this percentage sign here. Now what this does here, the split.index %2 is the modulo. Modulo means that this value here is divided by this value here, and the rest is then either 0 or 1 in this example. So, and this we can use now. So if the rest of this division between a value and 2, if the rest which remains is 0, then this is an even floor. Otherwise, if the rest is 1, it's an odd floor. Now we are going ahead and colorizing them accordingly, and this actually gets these repetitive patterns with even floors and odd floors. Now the next operation is actually commented out, so I'm going ahead and generating again, and now we see that also the splits for these tiles have been generated. So let's continue here. The next rule was commented out so far, so let me continue with this one. So what we are doing here is the rule is called tile, and I'm passing on a rule parameter. In this case, where the floor was an even floor, I'm passing on the word even as a string to the next rule, and the same I'm doing here, tile odd. Now I'm naming this parameter as tile style, so I can always refer to this value with this keyword basically. Now in here we have a nested case statement. So the first level is in case this tile style is even, and then in the lower part, or if it's odd. And then there's a second case statement again, which does a very similar thing, or does the same thing as with the floors, but with the tiles. So in this case here we have the distinction between the case where the split.index for each of the tiles, so in the horizontal order, is even or odd, we can then again go in and colorize them accordingly. So I'm again passing the information on. I'm renaming the information now to left and right, since this is something which we can see in the example here. There's always a left and a right alignment. So I just wanted to make this clear by stating this as a word. Oh, there we go. Okay, and this is again passed on, and here let me activate this rule, and here we have another name for this rule parameter, which is decidedness, and we have another distinction. So whether decidedness is left, then we make a split on the left side with this value, so this is the side value, and in the other case we are splitting on the other side. So this is the main distinction, how the geometry is created. And now here, if we go in, we now see that always we have the white tiles which are getting split on the left hand side, and the black tiles are getting split on the right hand side. And this is basically the very same structure as it was used in this advanced version of this facade. So now I would recommend to go into the PDF and work through all the code and try to understand as much as possible. Okay, so this was it for this tutorial. I hope to see you in the next tutorial.